we're going to start on the physical. Right, and this is, for anyone watching, the first impression is important, right? It's not a determination of who you are, but I want to break down the psychology of how people perceive other people, right? Regardless of how advanced we think our society is, how we interpret each other, right? And how those things within interpersonal relationships can make or break how you're perceived.
Yeah.
Right. I'm going to touch on a sensitive subject for people, which is if you are overweight, right? And I'm not talking about you carrying on a couple of extra pounds. I'm saying that you're fucking overweight. You're fat.
Yeah.
Right. You're carrying a lot of extra weight. And why is this perceived as a negative? Right. And let's dive a little bit off topic. You've got an entire movement which is slowly dying because the people who are starting the movement die with it, literally. And that's the body positivity movement, right? Which says that I'm obese and how dare my doctor tell me I must lose weight, right? Well, he's not telling you because he's not telling you because you can do what you want.
Well, you're unhealthy.
Right. He's telling you because he's a doctor and his job is to tell you if you're healthy or not.
Right.
And your weight is affecting your health.
Absolutely.
He's got, in the biggest scheme of things, he's got no investment in you doing it or not doing it. He's literally just giving you his expertise. Right. However, when this comes to society, okay, and you walk into a door, right? And we'll take two people. We'll take someone who's in shape. I'm not talking about a 300-pound bodybuilder, right? Because that's the extreme. I'm talking about someone who's in shape, right? You can see their waist is small. They don't carry any extra belly fat. The shoulders are nice and wide. You can see they have a low body fat percentage. They look muscular, right? They walk into a room. What happens is the reason people fluctuate towards that, right? It doesn't mean that that's a good person, a bad person. It doesn't mean, I'm not even diving into personality. I'm talking about that first impression when someone walks into a room. Why do people look at that and go, ooh? And why does it attract people? It attracts people because in order to look that way, you had to do a certain set of things. Looking that way, the certain set of things that you did would have to take work, discipline, and sacrifice.
You can't hit the gym 2 or 3 times a week and jump on a treadmill or elliptical and look fit, and that's the only thing that you do.
Yeah.
Like, there's way more that goes into it.
Right, and then over and above that, the gym is only 1 or 2 hours, maybe a day, of what that person's doing. The rest is how they control the rest of their day.
Yeah, specifically what you put in your mouth.
Right. Now, why is that important? Because it's a vetting card, right? You're walking into a room and immediately the people in the room go, muscular, in shape, low body fat. I want to speak to this person because they know that took work. They know that took sacrifice. They know that person is already putting the work without even speaking to them, without even engaging with them. You've already determined that this person has put in sacrifice, right? On the flip side, if someone walks into a room and they are grossly obese, I'm not talking about people that are carrying a couple of extra pounds, because generally in society, people carrying extra pounds, no one cares, right? I'm talking about someone that physically,
morbidly obese,
to a very, very large degree, shows that they are unhealthy, right? And why do people look at that and why do they judge? They judge because without even interpreting the thought process, right? Without even the knowing consciously why they're looking at it, in order to weigh 350 pounds of fat, you had to do a certain set of things, the same way that the guys who's in shape had to do a certain set of things. However, these are the flip side. These were things that meant that you couldn't self-control, you couldn't self-regulate. You have you have no concept of how people perceive you, and you will not take steps to interact that, right? That's not to say that you can't get back into shape. You also have all that ability. You can get into shape, but the guy who's in shape can get out of shape, right? But it automatically triggers a psychological response in human beings that determines, without that person having even spoken to you, a judgment which has nothing to do with them being good or bad, but immediately. And now let's break that down even further. How can you say they're wrong? You can't, right? And this is the part that people struggle with, because as much as I always say in this podcast, you are responsible for you. You are. No one can make you follow a nutrition plan.
Yeah.
Right? You can be the richest guy in the world, right? I had this conversation with people the other day. You can be the richest guy in the world. You can be a billionaire, right? And you can have all the money in the world, and you can buy every steroid. You can have the best chefs in the world preparing your food for you. They cannot make you eat it. They cannot design the meals for you, and they cannot do the workouts for you.
That's right.
You will have to still do the work. You still have to earn it.
Yep.
So it's the one thing that in society does draw people in, because it's not about how much you earn. We can all make money, and some people make a lot more money than others. But money doesn't necessarily always mean that you earned it, right? It could have been an inheritance. It could have been a trust fund.
Yeah.
It could have been luck of the draw, which happens to people. But having to have a physique that is that people attract to, that's different.
I think, having money affords you the ability to hire conveniences that enable you to be more effective with the lifestyle that you're choosing for fitness and health. But in the end, you still have to do the work. Like you can fill your fridge with a meal prep service because you can afford to pay for that. But if they only sit there and you still go out to dinner and you didn't eat those meals because of
you're
whatever
still accountable
reason,
for it. Right.
You can have money and you can buy convenience, but you still have to do the work.
And then on the flip side, right, when we look at obesity, specifically in the United States, right, unfortunately, we live in a country that is going through some changes now with, the Maha movement and, Mr. Kennedy just changing the way the food system works, which is great.
Long overdue.
However, on the flip side, it is true. It is cheaper to eat shitty food. It is. I'm not even going to sit here and try and say it's not. However, there are still choices to be made. Right, I remember when I had no money, right, and I still had a diet. I wasn't eating steak. I was eating the cheapest ground beef I could get. I was boiling it to get the fat out of it.
I mean, to be honest, right now, like, it's bothering me to pay the steak prices because steak is high.
Steak is expensive.
It's like, I think last night I was looking at it, it was like $15 a pound or something like that.